It's always exciting to be filming a Feadship, and this one especially so. Anybody who knows anything about yacht building is in awe of Feadship, and it's quite understandable. But this is a particularly interesting example because she was built in 1985 and is an outstanding example that demonstrates that with the right maintenance schedule, with the right budget, with the right owner, with the right crew, you could be mistaken for thinking that she's a brand new yacht. In this video, we'll be looking all over the Feadship Explora, from the top to the bottom, ending in the engine room and with a feature of this yacht that you may have never heard of before. And starting at the top means starting at the sun deck, which is where we are now. And before I start to show you some of the major features here, you may have noticed these little doors in the superstructure, which are all there for storage. I took a little look earlier, and it's remarkable how far back they go and how much storage space they have. Currently, the crew are using that for storage of cleaning equipment, cleaning supplies, quite a few of the covers that protect the outside furniture under there as well. Keeps the whole area nice and clean, so that you can enjoy a drink at the bar. Actually the bar, the hot tub, because it's all integrated into one. And I can hardly imagine anything more pleasurable than sitting here with some friends, having a chat about the day's activities, while your children or your friends' children are splashing about in the hot tub. It really does make for a fantastic mental picture of enjoyment on your cruise. Moving a little bit further aft, there are two of these units with fridge space, storage space, ice makers. Clearly this structure here dominates a fair amount of the space on the sun deck, and that's very important because it's a structure that's used for the main engine exhausts, which actually discharge right at the very top, and also the engine air intakes. Now, as you may be able to hear, that can make a fair amount of noise, so the captain was telling me that while there are no guests on board, they'll have that fully open to get maximum amount of air to the engine room, but when guests are on board, they can actually reduce that so that it keeps the noise down and you can enjoy a bit of peace and nice conversation with your friends. They've also used this structure very cleverly to incorporate this massive barbecue here. And once again, I can hardly imagine anything more pleasurable than moving from the jacuzzi further aft here while the chef is cooking your baby back ribs, and then just a few steps away and you can be sitting here enjoying a nice meal with your children. These two tables, which appear to be of Corian, actually also extend to become one big table. Now on the bridge deck, this is a bit of an unusual configuration because generally speaking, all of the tenders would be here. Right now we have the Novarania 700, so that's a 7-meter tender in the water, so there's space for all of these sunbeds. Generally speaking, the way that you'd use the yacht is that you'd go somewhere, drop the anchor, all of the water toys would be in the water. Now that's those two VRX personal watercraft there, a Novarania 550, so that's a 5.5-meter rib, and the Novarania 700, the 7-meter rib that I mentioned earlier. You can imagine that when they're all in the water, this gives you a huge expanse of deck space. And in fact, I can well imagine that if you had a special event and somewhat of a party, you could get a lot of people on this deck with a DJ and have a really great time. There's even space, as you can see as well, for personal gym equipment, which is a great thing to have on a yacht. Obviously there's the two big cranes there as well, which have got easily enough capacity to be able to launch large tenders into the ocean, and this beautiful sun awning here to give a little bit of shade. Moving further forward, I have to say I'm particularly impressed with the quality of the T capping rail, and it's very clear to me that the crew do a lot of work here to keep this beautifully varnished. Again, it looks like brand new. As we move further forward, as you can see, there are wing stations on either side of the bridge, so that makes it a lot easier for the captain to be able to just step out from the pilot house and just see how close he is to the dock. Naturally, on a yacht this size as well, he'll be talking to his crew, who'll be counting him in as he gets closer and closer to the dock. And this is what we call a Portuguese bridge, because you actually have access through this central corridor here to the bow, where there's another 2 couches, and of course the anchors, the anchor winches, and all of that anchor equipment. Let's take a look inside the bridge though as well. The bridge has a few interesting features that the captain pointed out to me. One would think that the yacht is steered from here. Actually, it's not. This is considered emergency steering, and in fact, it's completely disactivated. At the moment, there are 2 valves in the engine room which are used to unblock this and to reactivate it if you really need to in an emergency. The yacht is actually steered from here with this tiller arm that operates the rudders. There are actually 4 or 5 different ways that you can steer this yacht. There are 2 autopilots. That's very unusual for a yacht. Usually a yacht of this size will have just 1, but clearly they put the waypoints into the autopilot, and then the yacht steers itself effectively, with the crew just being vigilant and watching what's going on around them. If you're not using an autopilot, you can use this as a tiller arm, and there you can even see the degrees at which you're turning. This also is a steering system, although this one is not self-correcting. With this one, you would have to put it back to 0. With this, you need to turn it in the opposite direction to bring yourself back literally onto an even keel with the rudders in a straight line. And then this is used as the emergency steering if you really need to. But as the captain pointed out, if you were to use this to steer across the Atlantic, you'd be pretty exhausted by the time that you got to the other end. Further back here, this is the rack for the audio-video equipment for the entire yacht. Actually, it's well ventilated, which it needs to be. There's also all of the internet equipment on there as well, and the captain was telling me that they have a firewall installed for cyber security. As you can imagine, many yacht owners do a lot of business on board their yachts, and the kind of business that some of them will be doing are pretty high stakes, so cyber security on a yacht is a pretty important issue. Another really unusual feature here is that whilst the captain's cabin, which is particularly large, is situated here on the bridge deck, that's quite normal. But what's not normal is that behind here, there's the chief engineer's cabin as well. So there's actually 2 crew cabins on this deck. To do that, they've had to really partition the bridge deck off into 2, so that this is very much a crew area, it's the bridge, and then on the other side is the Sky Lounge. We're going to take a look at that now. And now we really start to get a feel for the interior design of the yacht, which is absolutely delightful. These beautiful, clean, white wooden panels everywhere, combining with lovely, natural leathers. It's just such a delightful area to be in. Actually, the crew told me that they've had quite a few children on board the yacht this year who've enjoyed splashing around in the hot tub, playing in the ocean, and then when they get tired out, they snuggle up on this sofa, watching Pingu, and fall asleep. It is such a lovely, relaxing, snug, comfortable little area to be in. And on the subject of children, here's an interesting addition that they made to this area. This stainless steel post here was made to support a child gate to stop the children tumbling down the stairs. I wanted to bring it to your attention because even this has been designed and manufactured in such a beautiful way with such attention to detail. As I mentioned, those steps go down to the main deck. I'm not going to tumble down there, even though there's no gate on right now, but we are going to go down to see what's on the main deck. So we're in the main deck aft, and again it's a really beautiful area, very, very well proportioned. You have plenty of space for this seating arrangement here, which must be so inviting to just sit and have sundowners with your friends at the end of the day before then moving on to the main dining table here and enjoying a great feast prepared for you by the chef. And we'll be having a look at the galley in a few moments, and you'll be able to see that they can do some fantastic meals from that galley. So that's the idea of this area here. If you're in an area where there's a lot of wind, they have these panels here which can actually be fitted all the way aft on both sides of the yacht, giving you protection from the wind so that you're able to really enjoy this area to the most. They also have separate panels which are not transparent, so that if you're in dock and you're right next to another yacht where they're also on their aft deck and you might want to be looking in on each other, you have some level of privacy there as well. While I'm here though, I wanted to point this out to you, which I probably should have pointed out earlier where it's more visible, but these are the frames of the hull. And as you can see, they're exposed. That's a very distinctive feature of most Feadships. Most yacht builders, when they're talking about steel hulls, will put a second piece of steel here to cover the frames because they think it looks nicer. That's not that easy to do, because if you start to get corrosion on the inside of that piece of metal, it can be an awful problem for the yacht. Now, I'm not saying that most yacht builders have that problem. Most don't. They have ways for it not to happen. And I'm also not saying that's the reason that Feadship don't do it. But I think it looks rather smart to have the frames exposed, and it does kind of remind you that you're on a Feadship. Now, to my starboard and to the port, we have side decks. A feature of the side decks, which is worth noting, is that they go about 3/4 of the way up the hull, and then there are steps which takes you up to the bridge deck. Now that's significant, and we'll be seeing why in a few moments. Before we look inside though, I'll just draw your attention to this bar area. This is a lovely Korean work surface. You've got a fridge here, you've got an ice maker here, a small sink. This is actually a protection for the television set, so that you can actually sit back there, watch England beat France in the quarterfinals. It's not happened yet, but mark my words, it will, Max, it will. Let's take a look inside. And again, we have this glorious interior. This is actually an interior designed by Pembroke and Ives, a New York design house. I thought it was actually a New England style, but I've been told it's called Hampton's Beach Club style. Again, beautiful white paneling, beautiful use of mahogany, stainless steel. There's even a stand-up piano there, which I'm told is a self-playing piano. What I was particularly impressed with though is through here. This is just one of the most elegant interior dining spaces I've ever seen. A gorgeous mahogany dining table with two matching credenza to either side. A lot of storage space here for cutlery, crockery, glassware, because apart from the two credenza, there's also all of this storage area here, mostly used for your cutlery and also your tablecloths, I would imagine. Appropriately enough, next to the dining area is the galley. I have to say I was particularly interested to take a look at the galley. I've filmed quite a few yachts in the 150-foot range. What tends to happen is that you have a huge main lounge area, a huge master stateroom, and squashed in the middle is a galley that's actually very difficult to use. They haven't done that with this yacht. Just look at the size of this. You've got lovely fridge, freezer storage there, a nice countertop to be able to prepare the food, good sized sink, but we're not even in the galley yet. Here is where the galley is. All stainless steel finishing. You could be in a Michelin star restaurant here. I do actually know that Gordon Ramsay follows me on Instagram, and I do wonder if he watches this video, I'd love to have his thoughts on how this weighs up as a galley. I think personally, and the chef guarantees me it's a fantastic working space, very functional, and so far they've cooked probably thousands of fantastic meals from this kitchen. We're going to take a look at the master stateroom in a moment, but before we do that, I wanted to point out to you those two windows there looking through into the main lounge area. Right now we can see through to the main lounge, but with a click of a switch we can make them opaque. Moving forward, it's worth being aware that many guests will enter the yacht through this side door here that accesses immediately the side deck. So this will be their first view of the yacht, and we have this beautifully designed stairwell here using stainless steel and what looks like mahogany wood. There's a little hidden door here that goes through to the galley. And then here we have a very elegant and beautiful day head. Here is where the owner's stateroom starts though. We have this absolutely gorgeous study area, again using beautiful leathers, beautifully finished wood. There's storage space and wardrobe space all the way along there. This must be a wonderful area to just be able to sit, do a little bit of work, read a book, have a little bit of alone time. And through here is the actual cabin space. I mentioned earlier the importance of being aware of those steps on the side deck. Now they're important because when you have side decks on a deck, of course they eat into the space, in this case of the main lounge. So by having stairs that go up to the bridge deck, that's now expanded all of this area, so we have a real proper full beam master stateroom, and it's absolutely magnificent. Behind these panels here we have a television, so this just slides easily away there. You can watch the television. But possibly the most surprising feature for me was the size of the master bathroom. You have a proper tub, a really large shower, lots of space around you, somewhere here to sit and do your makeup if you want to. Everything that you could possibly wish for. I talk about this quite often in videos, how the division of space on a yacht is so critical to the enjoyment of it. On this particular yacht, as you've seen, they have a very sizable galley, a very, very good sized aft deck, a huge master stateroom, and the lounge area is a well-proportioned lounge. It's not huge, but it's everything you could possibly need. So it's been a very intelligent use of space that, in my opinion, works very well. What about the crew though? What about the space for the crew? Well, now we're going to take a look below main deck level, and we'll start from the bow, working towards the stern. We'll be starting with the crew space. Below deck, the crew quarters are situated forward. I have to say, I was really surprised and impressed by the space that Feadship dedicated to the crew, even back in the 80s. These days there are regulations making yacht builders give good living conditions to the crew. Feadship were already doing that before such regulations existed. There are 4 ensuite crew cabins in this area, plus the cabins I've already referred to on the bridge deck, so Explora can accommodate up to 11 crew in 6 cabins. The guest accommodation gives me an opportunity to tell you another unusual feature of this yacht. On most modern yachts, as you go from the bow to the stern, you'll have the crew accommodation, the guest accommodation, then the engine room, and then many modern yachts will have a beach club. On Explora, you have the crew accommodation, but then you have the engine room, and then the guest accommodation is positioned aft. It's an interesting feature. It works very well. As you'll see, there's a lot of space here. But let me show you something important from the VIP stateroom. See, this is a really spacious stateroom. You've got a little area for working, a little study there. You've got lots of wardrobe space here. But remember that the engine room is going to be in this direction. So what they've done is they've put a very nice, very spacious ensuite bathroom as a sound protection between you and the engine room. As a matter of fact, when we left the dock this morning, I commented to the camera crew that I didn't even realise we were moving. It's an incredibly silent yacht. But even that said, nobody really wants to sleep right next to the engine room. So to have that sound buffer is an absolutely fantastic feature. Another great feature though is found through here. A massage room. Now this was done on a recent refit. They converted this cabin into a massage room, which is a great thing to have on a yacht, let's face it. But at the same time, it can be used as a cabin because this is a bed, I think they call it a Murphy bed, which will just fold down so that you can have this either a sleeping area or as an area for massage, still with a large ensuite bathroom. By the way, each of these rooms is named after an explorer. This is the Amelia Earhart room with some lovely photographs of Amelia Earhart here as well. Moving our way aft, to this side, we have a guest laundry. Again, quite an unusual feature to have a guest laundry, but very, very useful. It's useful for the crew because it means that they can very easily get all of the bed linen done, pressed, and back onto the beds. But also there are certain owners who do actually prefer to do their own laundry, believe it or not. I've been involved with building yachts where the owner's wife usually has specifically said, no, I do prefer to have a washer dryer somewhere closer to my cabin so that I can do all my own stuff. Well, in this case, they've got everything they could possibly need in this guest laundry. Moving across, we have another VIP stateroom. Again, a small area to be able to sit with your laptop and do a little bit of work here. Absolutely beautifully designed, beautiful decor, and again, a decent sized ensuite bathroom. And I really must compliment the designers who made this cabinetry. I think that the mahogany wood used here and the little fluting and features used in that wood is absolutely beautiful. It's not over the top, it's just very elegant, very pleasing to the eye. But there are more cabins. Moving further aft, we have a twin cabin here, great size, nice sized bunks as well, and again with an ensuite head. And finally, the last cabin is through here. Now, one of the things that I really do like about Explora is that every stateroom seems to be different. I sometimes say to my camera crew, I don't know what to say about this stateroom because they all look exactly the same. Not the case with this particular yacht. They're all so different and they all have something different to offer. This particular cabin has what I would refer to as a queen-sized bunk. But then also it has this couch area here which doubles up as a bed. This must be great for a young couple with a very young child and they don't want to be sleeping separately from the child. It means that the couple can be together, the child can be here, they can enjoy good family time together and sleep well at night, if the child doesn't cry too much, that is. Now, I did say at the beginning that at the end of that companionway is the engine room, and I know that the engine room is something that viewers really like to take a look at. So I'm going to show it to you now, and there's a particular feature which I think you'll find particularly interesting. The engine room is truly impressive. The engines that you see here are Detroit diesels, 675 horsepower each. Now, here are some figures that I know many of you will appreciate. Explora has a maximum speed of 12.5 knots. At this speed, she has an impressive range of about 2,500 nautical miles. Slow down a little to 10.5 knots and the range increases considerably to 3,360 nautical miles. But really, the ideal economy cruising speed is a steady 9 knots, when the range increases to 4,320 nautical miles, more than enough for an Atlantic crossing. This area too has been maintained perfectly and also modernised. She benefits from an Alfa Laval fuel polishing system. 0-speed stabilisers were added in 2008. Oh, and she also has this rather smart piece of equipment called a Spot Zero. That Spot Zero system is very ingenious. The yacht has a water maker, just like many other yachts, and that uses a system called reverse osmosis to desalinate the water so that it can be used in the showers and it can be used to wash the yacht down. The problem is that when you wash the yacht down, very often as the water dries, little residual spots of calcium and minerals are left on the superstructure and on the hull, and it can be really quite unsightly. So what Spot Zero does is it takes all of that out of the water so that you've got pure water that when it dries it leaves no trace. Not only that, the same system then puts minerals back into the water so that when it comes out of the faucets you've got beautiful, clear drinking water. It's really just one example of many modernizations that have been made to this yacht over the years, and it's also an example of how when you have an owner that's prepared to keep up with the maintenance schedule, keep up with the modernizations of the yachts, the vessel can look fantastic and operate beautifully for decades to come. Not only that, when they come to sell the vessel, they'll get a higher price as compared to a different brand of yacht. And from the perspective of the buyer, they can buy a Feadship for a fraction of the price that a brand new one of a comparable size would cost, even though, in effect, this does present like a brand new Feadship. That's what I would call a win-win situation, and I drink to that every day.